Okay, so welcome to our annual update on data protection and cybersecurity. I'm sorry that this isn't in person, but as Easter is so late this year, we're keen to get students back and working as quickly as possible with their exams starting this week for many of them. But I hope you've had a good break over Easter, however long or short that has been. The advantage, of course, of this being online is that you can listen to me at double speed, which is more difficult in real life, although it does sometimes feel like I'm trying to go at double speed when Chris has only given me 5 minutes to do a 15-minute presentation. So the advantage for me is that I've got as long as I want in what we're doing today. So what are we going to do? Well, we've got a few updates on data protection, and these go alongside the IHASCO training that you do through every HR every 3 years. These are some key things, some key reminders on data protection. And then I have a cybersecurity video, which was, we kind of delved into a little bit last year and just looked at a few excerpts, but we've got the opportunity to look at the full thing this year and go through that, and that's about 30 minutes. And then at the end of that, there'll be a Google form for you to complete with a few quiz questions, just as evidence that you've been here and you've done this training. So let's launch into this. Key data protection reminders. So what is personal data? That's what data protection is all about, is this thing called personal data. And in the legislation, the Data Protection Act 2018 and UK GDPR, it refers to it as any information relating to an identified or identifiable living person. So names, date of births, addresses, phone numbers, SCN information, medical information. If it is identifiable with a living person, that is personal data. And then kind of what is a data breach? Those are the things that we don't want to do, and it is any time, this is my summary, that personal data is not used in accordance with data protection legislation. There is lots of training about what the data protection legislation says, and I've tried to summarise it here for what it means for us as a school. Is when we are sharing pupil or parent data, we must therefore either obtain specific consent from the parents, or if they're at senior school, from the child, if we wish to share their personal data, or, and this is the more often, it must be essential for us to fulfil our educational responsibilities for that child. And it therefore should be in our privacy notice for students and parents, which can be found on our website. And that is whoever we are sharing that data with, whether that's internally, it should only be shared with those people that need to have that information, or externally with third parties. It should be to fulfill our educational responsibilities. So that's in summary what we're trying to do. So what if it goes wrong? It does, we've had about 25 reports in the last year of where this has gone wrong. And I think the first thing to say is please don't worry if it goes wrong. It happens to all of us. The most important thing is that you let somebody know straight away. We have 72 hours of becoming aware of a data breach, that if it is serious enough and meets the threshold to report to the ICO, the Information Commissioner's Office, that we have 72 hours to do that. And in between that time, from you emailing myself or HR, we need to contact Judicium, our data protection officer. Will probably ask some follow-up questions. We get back to you, ask you those questions, and then we make a decision as whether we need to report it, and that all needs to happen within 72 hours. So please report it as quickly as possible from the time that you become aware of it. That's when the clock starts ticking, and then we can report it in a timely manner if we need to. The vast majority of things don't need to be reported to the ICO, but we do check the majority of things with Judicium as they have responsibility for deciding whether or not something needs to be reported. So please do contact as quickly as possible. A few things, looking at those kind of 25 or so things that have been reported that we could do better. The even better ifs, if you like. Firstly, a huge number of our data breaches happen around emails. So can I really encourage you to double check that you've got the email address right, that you are not sending an email to a parent when it should be to a colleague, whether they have similar names, that you do check that carefully. If you are sending to parents, we would encourage you to use ISAMS, and IT have put together a really kind of helpful video on how to use ISAMS to send to individual parents or group parents, and make sure that you are contacting the right parent in the right situation. It also means that it sends it to both parents at the same time. If you are using email and it is a group, please use BCC, not CC, otherwise you are inadvertently sharing all the email addresses with everyone else that's receiving that email. And please ask, if you don't know what I mean by that, please ask, so that when you're sharing to groups of people, you're just sharing the content of the email. So emails, that's first major thing. Second thing just to be aware of is when we are using new software and we are inputting personal data into that software, we must complete a data protection impact assessment, or DPIA for short, and IT will support you in doing that. And this I think a lot of the new software that we might be using is kind of AI or AI related. And any time we are putting personal data into AI, we must conduct this before we do that. If in doubt, don't put any personal data into any AI at all. But if you're aware that you are using a new bit of software and you are going to be entering personal data into that, then we must conduct that. And the impact assessment might come back and say, actually, no, we can't use that with personal data. So please do think about that really carefully. If in doubt, please contact IT before using any new bit of software. The third, even better if, is data retention, and this will be something that we'll be working on throughout this year. And we do have a data retention policy that can be found on our website, and we're working towards making sure that we are doing everything that we say on there. One of those things is that emails will be deleted automatically. You don't need to do anything after 7 years, unless you're in a category where there might be safeguarding information contained within your email, so kind of house parent or deputy head pastoral, and there are some other key roles in that category, but emails will be deleted automatically after 7 years. We'd encourage you to delete all student records after 7 years as well, whether those are paper or electronic, and we're working on how to do that for docs more automatically, but that's proving difficult, as is doing it for ISAMS records. But it's our intention to kind of really move forward with our data retention policy and making sure that we're following that over the course of this year. Few final things from me. Just like we have a privacy notice for students and parents that lets them know how we're using their data, and the things that it's legitimate for us to do. We have one for staff as an employer, and so I would encourage you to read that alongside our group data protection policy, which outlines in detail all of the things that we should be doing with regards to data. And if you have any questions, they should be answered within those policies, and they both can be found on our website. And the final thing is just a thank you to say thank you for the move with WhatsApp and the move away from WhatsApp and towards Google Chat. If I can just kind of remind people what we have said with regard to this, and this is found in our group IT acceptable use policy for all staff, and it says we discourage any use of WhatsApp for Moncton business, including large social groups. This is because of the lack of compliance with UK GDPR and the challenge of complying with subject access requests. We're also looking to reduce the number of different platforms that staff are required to use for work purposes. For messaging, we would encourage all staff to use Google Chat, either via the app or on a computer in the Gmail website, or text messaging from a school phone. For making calls, we'd encourage staff to use a school number or a 3CX number where possible. However, we'd discourage use of messaging function via 3CX just to limit the number of messaging functions. There are some exceptions to this, and these are identified in the acceptable use policy as well. Contacting parents who don't have another viable means of urgent communication. This will largely be house parents, must be on a school phone, and we would say not to delete the conversation. And then there might be some WhatsApp groups that are external to Moncton, and no member of staff should feel they must be part of these groups with their personal number. And if appropriate, we should encourage this communication to be via email. And obviously no personal information about staff or pupils should be shared in these groups. So just thank you very much for the way that people have embraced this and moved to Google Chat. And I hope it helps in your work-life balance as well. Please do ask if you've got any questions about this. So now we're going to move to the cybersecurity training session.
Your school will be reliant on technology to run. For example, the school's email, teachers' online lesson plans, and MIS system is now a crucial part of everyday life in a school. When something goes wrong with this technology, it can have a devastating and sometimes critical impact on the operations of the school. A cyber incident is when your systems, processes, or people are negatively impacted through the means of your IT. Your IT team or IT support provider will be responsible for securing your systems and should be ensuring basic protection from cyber attacks. However, no technological solution is 100% effective. Often the best defence is staff who are aware of the main cyber risks and threats to a school. School staff can be a crucial part of a school's cyber defences by following some key cyber security steps. Your school should have an IT security and acceptable use policy. This guidance should be read alongside these to ensure you understand your school's policies. Agenda. During this training, we will look at how and why cyber attacks happen, but also give you some tips to ensure you are practicing good cyber hygiene in both the school and at home. First, we will look at the results of a cybersecurity schools audit. Then we will look at the types of people that might be at a risk to your school from a cybersecurity perspective. We will then look at practical steps you can take to protect yourself and your school from cyber attacks. Statistics from cybersecurity in schools audit. A recent survey looked at cybersecurity in over 400 schools. The key responses included 83% of schools had experienced some type of cyber incident or attack. 69% of schools had suffered a phishing attack. This was the most common form of cyber attack across the schools surveyed. 97% of schools said losing access to IT would cause considerable disruption. This is not unusual considering how dependent schools have become on technology. 65% of schools don't train non-IT staff on cybersecurity. When trained, staff play a valuable role in defending against cyber attacks and incidents. Who is behind the cyber attacks? There are all sorts of individuals and groups that might wish to target a school. They may try to con or use unknowing staff to gain access to the school's data or money. You might also be caught up in an untargeted attack or incident. Often perpetrators send out blanket emails to organisations in the hope that a member of staff clicks on a dodgy web link or attachment. To begin with, we're going to look at schools that are targeted. In a school, you may face targeted threats. This is where individuals or groups identify weaknesses in the cyber defences or processes of that school. This could involve stealing or guessing login credentials, or exploiting flaws in software. Attackers may also have identified some personal information about a member of staff online. Attackers can use this information to manipulate victims into performing actions or divulging confidential information, usually for fraud purposes. This is called social engineering, and often the victim has no idea that it is being done to them. Why would they target my school? Schools hold sensitive data on pupils, parents and staff. This can be valuable to perpetrators for a range of reasons, from setting up fake bank accounts to reselling the details online. Schools carry out lots of financial transactions. Often these are only signed off by a few members of staff in a school. Cyber criminals might only need to target one or two individuals in order to steal or con money from a school or supplier. Whilst a school may have a dedicated IT team or IT support, these people are not normally security specialists. Cybersecurity is only a small part of their day job. This can mean the school's IT systems are not adequately protected and are a soft target for cyber attackers. A school could have older equipment or software that is more vulnerable to cyber attacks. Schools are busy places where quite rightly the focus is on teaching. This can mean security measures aren't adopted or discussed that could improve the school's cyber resilience. Now let's have a look at some of the types of individuals that could target a school. Threats are normally described as being external or internal. In this section, we're going to look at external threats. External threats are people from outside the school that may seek to cause harm. Online criminals. Criminals are generally interested in making money and are very good at identifying what can be monetised. They will steal and sell sensitive school data. They can also block access to IT systems and demand a money ransom to let you back in. They may also look to exploit weak school processes and may target members of staff that authorise school payments. This could involve taking advantage of how you log into the school IT systems and services. Organised criminals have the resources to perfect their approach. We're now going to watch two short video case studies. These are based on real events and demonstrate how the threat from cybercriminals have impacted schools. As we saw in the previous video, this school had their data encrypted, and this resulted in the school having no access to its computer network or data for several days. The criminals began the scam by phoning the school and pretending to be from the Department for Education in England. It's worth noting criminals might pretend to be from any education department in the UK, depending on what school they are targeting. As we saw in the previous video, this school was targeted by criminals using a phishing technique who wanted to steal money from parents and the school. This also led to the criminals using and selling on the parents' personal details for future attacks. This isn't just a problem for independent schools. Nurseries, academies, local authority schools and school suppliers have also fallen victim to this type of cyber fraud. Foreign governments. Foreign governments are generally interested in accessing sensitive or valuable information that may give them a strategic or political advantage. It is highly unlikely that a foreign government would directly target a school. However, schools can be caught up in cyber attacks by foreign governments that are untargeted. A good example of this was the WannaCry ransomware developed by North Korea, which affected the NHS and other organisations in 2017. This attack was possible because there was a security vulnerability in Windows devices that allowed ransomware to run and spread very easily from one computer to another on the same network. Whilst this ransomware has been attributed to North Korea, it is not believed that they specifically targeted the NHS. Threats from inside the school. We're now going to look at threats originating from inside the school. Whilst it is common to think about the threats that may come from outside your school, there may also be attempts to access your data or disrupt systems from inside the school. This is commonly referred to as the insider threat. On very rare occasions, it may be a disgruntled employee, or more commonly, an honest mistake from a member of staff. However, in a school you might also have curious pupils eager to practice their hacking skills. Potential threats from pupils. These days, pupils have access to an abundance of material on the internet that can guide and coach them on computer hacking. There are plenty of tutorials, videos and free tools that they can use to practice their skills. It may be that your pupils are just curious and are looking to test their skills with no malicious intent. They may not completely understand the implications of their actions and might do something that seriously impacts your network. Other pupils may be looking to disrupt the school network just to be a nuisance. Think of it as the modern-day equivalent of setting off the fire alarm. They may also try to access their own data or their friends to change behaviour records or coursework grades. There are many websites that offer services to help attack networks and websites for a small fee. This may be in the form of a distributed denial of service attack, where lots of internet traffic is deliberately aimed at the school to overload its network. This can be very disruptive, leading to IT outages lasting for hours. Although it doesn't delete or change information on the school's network, distributed denial of service attack can prevent access to critical internet-based services. We are now going to watch another short case study of a real cyber event that involved a pupil which took place in a school. previous video, a pupil was able to access the school's MIS system because a teacher left a password for their computer out in the open. The teacher had used this same password for the MIS system and other school IT accounts. The pupil guessed this and accessed the MIS system, which had thousands of bits of sensitive data on other pupils stored on it. This contributed to a major breach of the school's data, and the school had to report the incident to the Information Commissioner's office. Potential threats from staff. Schools rightly have a strict and careful recruitment process. This often means that we implicitly trust our school staff and would not consider them a threat to our school networks. Whilst it is very rare, there is a small risk where a disgruntled member of staff might act against the school through its IT networks. The risk of this is low, but it's important you are aware that this can happen. If individual members of staff have increased levels of IT access, they also have the potential to cause increased levels of damage to the school's IT, either accidentally or on purpose. To help defend against this malicious activity, you should understand your school's whistleblowing policy to raise a concern if you see something that doesn't seem right. We're going to look at another short video animation. This was a rare but real event involving a disgruntled member of staff at a school. Thankfully, whilst these types of incidents are rare, this case study is a good reminder that there is still a risk from staff in this way, and schools should be aware of it so they can manage it. A good step from the school in this situation would have been to remove access from the member of staff when they were initially suspended. It is important to remove access to the school's IT when staff move on from the school. This is also relevant for temporary members of staff. Accidental cyber incidents. Accidental cyber incidents by staff or pupils are far more common than malicious insider attacks. They are the main reason why schools report data breaches to the Information Commissioner Office, ICO. This is not a surprise, as staff in schools are very busy, and it's very easy to overlook something when trying to do things in a hurry. It's important to ensure there is not a fear of reporting by staff because of the threat of repercussions from a school. It is typically easier to fix IT issues and reduce the negative impact they create the earlier they are reported. An accidental cyber incident may involve losing a USB storage device that wasn't encrypted, or accidentally emailing the wrong person with information containing sensitive data. Staff may also feel compelled to respond to school emails on their personal devices. Accidental data breaches. In the next video case study, we see a real example of an accidental data breach involving a member of staff. As we saw in this case study, storing data on a USB stick that has no password or encryption could lead to a major data breach if it is lost or stolen. Try to avoid using USB sticks if you can. If you do need to use one, try to use a stick issued by your school. 4 key ways to defend yourself. Now that we understand some of the most common threats and types of cyber incidents facing schools, let's have a look at how we might defend ourselves against them. Defend yourself against phishing. This section looks at how you might defend yourself from phishing attacks. Phishing is one of the most common types of cyber attack and can be targeted or untargeted. What is phishing? Phishing is where an email appears genuine but is actually fake. It might try and trick you into revealing sensitive information, or it might contain a link to a malicious website or an attachment that is infected with malware. Some phishing attempts are random, while others might be more targeted to you as an individual or to specific organisations like schools. Phishing attempts typically arrive via email, but can also arrive by social media, text message, or phone call. Your IT team or IT supplier should have security tools working behind the scenes to help protect your school from phishing. But you can also play a massive role by following some key steps. Example of a phishing attempt. Here is an example of what a phishing email might look like. In this example, someone is pretending to be sending an email from Microsoft, suggesting to the school's business manager that they have reached the size limit on their email account. Phishing emails will often compel someone to take action. For most people, not being able to receive or send emails is something that would worry them, so they will usually act to help prevent it. Here, the phishing email is prompting the user to click on a link to increase their email capacity. When the user clicks on the dodgy link, they will be taken to a website that looks like a genuine Microsoft web page. Once the user enters their username and password on this web page, the attacker will have access to these details and will use them to access the business manager's email account. Once the attacker has gained access to the business manager's account, they may steal the school's data or try and use the business manager's email account to phish other users within the school. Usually they might try to convince a parent, supplier, or other member of staff to transfer money to the attacker's bank account. Cyber attackers can use publicly available information about you and your school to help make their targeted phishing attempts look more convincing. This information is often taken from the school's website, social media channels, and professional networking sites. Information known as your digital footprint. We don't advise removing all traces of yourselves from the internet, but we would encourage you to review the privacy settings on your accounts and think about what you post online. For example, 1. Reduce the information available to attackers. Avoid posting specific details about your school and your role, especially if your role involves handling sensitive information about children, the school's finances, or you have highly privileged IT access. 2. Know the influence techniques. You are less likely to fall for a social engineering attack if you know what to look out for. Hallmarks of a phishing attempt include urgency or authority statements that pressure you to act. Checking for poor spelling and grammar is also a good place to start, but this won't apply to all phishing emails. If you have a feeling that something doesn't look quite right, then it probably isn't, and you should ask for help. 3. Know what normal looks like. Cyber attackers using phishing techniques often target certain people and processes in a school. For example, cyber attackers looking to steal money from your school might target someone in your finance team to influence your school's invoice process. Make sure you know your school's invoice policies and processes so it's easier to spot unusual activity. 4. Don't be too embarrassed to ask for help. Many phishing attacks rely on the victim being too embarrassed to ask colleagues for help. For example, if someone contacts you claiming to have compromising or personal material about you, don't be afraid to raise it with your IT team or manager. Phishing emails might also try and confuse you with technical terms and ask you to pay a ransom for their silence. They may even have discovered one of your passwords through an earlier data breach. This could have come from a website you've previously used that was compromised in the past. This means the cybercriminal might already have your email address and password you used for that website account, which is why it's extremely important to avoid using the same password for different accounts. 5. Report if you click. Phishing attempts can be very difficult to spot. If you fall victim to one, don't panic. If you do click on a link or a file by mistake, it's important to tell the right people immediately. This will reduce the potential harm caused. Find out who in your school to report such an incident like this to. Use strong passwords. Cyber attackers may try to guess your password in order to access your devices or important accounts, like your email and online banking account. They can guess your passwords based on the most common passwords in use, for example, password 1. Attackers can also use public information about you and your school to guess your password. Once they have guessed one password, they try to use this same password to access your other accounts. This is because people often use the same passwords for several different accounts. The strongest passwords are hard to guess and are not repeated across your different accounts. Using strong passwords. If you have used the same password for multiple online accounts, you should check to see whether those accounts have ever been compromised through a data breach. You can visit the site www.haveibeenpwned.com to find out if your email addresses have been involved in a data breach and whether your passwords for that account were exposed. If you discover some of your accounts have been breached, you should reset your passwords for these accounts and any other where you have used the same password. In the phishing email example we saw earlier in the presentation, sometimes a password you use is added to the phishing email to make the request seem more credible. This password was probably obtained from one of your accounts that was involved in an earlier breach. If you have reset those accounts with a new password, then you can be more confident that they cannot reuse that password to access other accounts. 1. Create a strong password for important accounts. Weak passwords can be hacked in seconds. The longer it is, the stronger it becomes, and the harder to hack. Make yours strong by using a sequence of 3 random words. You can make it even stronger with special characters. So, Flamingo Headman could be 42 at Flamingo Headman. Starting with your most important accounts, such as banking, email, and social media, replace your old passwords with new ones by stringing 3 random words together. 2. Use a separate password for your work and personal accounts. You are likely to have loads of online accounts. If one of those accounts gets compromised, you don't want the attacker to have your school password, so make sure your domestic and work passwords are different. Try not to use your school email address for personal websites or applications, and use a separate, unique password for your email accounts, so you will often use that email address to reset other passwords. 3. Where available, switch on two-factor authentication for important accounts. Two-factor authentication, 2FA, is normally a free security feature that gives you an extra layer of protection online and stops cybercriminals getting into your accounts, even if they have your password. It reduces the risk by asking you to provide a second factor, such as getting a text or code when you log in, to double-check you are who you say you are. Check if the online services and apps you use offer 2FA. If they do, turn it on and begin setting up with accounts you care most about, such as banking, email, and social media. For your school accounts, this may be enabled by your IT team or provider. 4. Store passwords securely. Using the same password all over the internet for your accounts makes you vulnerable. If that one password is stolen, all your accounts can be accessed. It's good practice to use different passwords for the accounts you most care about. Remembering lots of passwords can be difficult, but if you save them in your browser or a password manager, you don't have to. Online service providers are constantly updating their software to keep your sensitive personal data secure. So store your passwords in your browser when prompted. It's quick, convenient, and safer than reusing the same password for all your accounts. If you do need to write a password down, make sure you lock it away in a secure place. Secure your devices. In this section, we will look at how you can protect both your school and personal devices. Whilst the device that you use for school is likely to be managed and protected by the IT team, there are some things you can do to ensure your device stays safe and secure. You might also access school data on your own devices or use external devices to store that data on. It is equally important that you keep those devices secure, as any cyber incident on them could impact on the cybersecurity of you and your school. Make sure that you are complying with your school's IT security policies if you are using your own devices or external storage. Secure your devices. 1. Do not ignore updates. The IT devices you will use software and apps. Software and apps will have flaws, some of which can be exploited, leading to security problems. When flaws are discovered, the manufacturer will normally fix them and send the fix out as a patch or part of an update. Attackers try to take advantage of those flaws when they find out about them before your school has had a chance to apply the fix. Your school may manage updates for you. In some cases, this means updates are applied automatically. But sometimes you may be prompted to install the update, which you should do. Sometimes the updates are scheduled to update at night. This is perfectly fine. The few minutes it takes to update could save you time and trouble in the long run, and will reduce the risk of you or your school becoming victim of a cyber attack. If you see error messages or you believe software or apps aren't updating as you'd expect, then contact your IT support. 2. Only download software and apps from official app stores. Your organisation is likely to control the software or apps that can be installed on your school devices. Devices may come already installed with software or apps, or you might be given access to an approved store of software that you can use. If it's your personal device or you control what apps and software you install, it's best to only use official app stores like Google Play or Apple App Store. These apps are checked to provide a certain level of protection from viruses that might cause harm. You should avoid downloading third-party apps from unknown websites or vendors. You should also be aware of what data your apps may be accessing. If you find out apps are accessing your school data, then you should ensure that this is absolutely necessary and within your school's data protection policy by carefully reading the permissions information when installing the application. GDPR may accidentally be breached if you do not check. 3. Physically protect your device. Cyber attackers may try to physically exploit your device to access your sensitive information or accounts, for example, if it's left unlocked, lost, or stolen. Always secure your device with a screen lock. A screen lock can be a PIN, password, biometric, fingerprint or Face ID, or pattern. Pick any one of these security controls. Some are more secure than others, but it's important you choose one that works for you. If you are storing sensitive information on your device, then you should also make sure it's encrypted and backed up. Speak to your IT team if you are unsure if your device is sufficiently protected. If your device is compromised by a cyber criminal, your sensitive personal data can be lost, damaged or stolen. Keep a copy of all your important information by backing it up to the cloud or somewhere offline. You can choose to back up all your data or only information that is important to you. Only use IT-issued encrypted USB storage. Using USB storage that has not been scanned for malware could lead to your device being infected. Beware of free giveaways, as these could have malware already on them and may infect your devices. Any data stored on USB storage devices should be encrypted so that the data cannot be accessed if the device is lost. If in doubt, call it out. It's important that everyone feels comfortable speaking out if they feel that something isn't right. By calling it out at the right time, you could prevent something that may seem irrelevant at first, turning into a critical cyber incident. 1. Report any suspicious activity. Cyber attacks can be difficult to spot, and you cannot be expected to identify them all of the time. Don't hesitate to ask for further guidance or support when something feels suspicious, unexpected, or unusual. 2. Report as soon as possible. The sooner you report, the quicker it can be resolved and the less damage it will cause. Don't assume that someone else will do it. Even if you suspect you've accidentally done something to contribute to the harm, like clicking on a dodgy link, please still report what's happened. Everyone makes mistakes. It's important to report them as early as possible. 3. Don't be afraid to challenge. Security that doesn't work for staff doesn't work. Don't be afraid to flag up policies or processes that make your job difficult. Summary and checklist. Hopefully you'll now understand some of the main threats and types of cyber incident that you or your school might experience. Also, you will have a good idea on how to protect yourself against those kinds of attacks. Here is a quick summary of the key points and things you should do as soon as possible. 1. Review the privacy settings for your social media, professional networking site, and app accounts. 2. Know who to report any unusual activity to. If you're not sure, ask your line manager or IT team. 3. Check your device is set to receive updates automatically. 4. For your most important accounts, set a strong password and switch on two-factor authentication, if available. 5. Remove any apps that have not been downloaded from official stores. 6. Check that the password for your work account is unique. 7. If it's not possible to follow security advice, process, or policy, flag it to your IT team. Thank you.
So, thank you very much for watching. I hope you found that useful. There is a link there that I will put in the email that allows you to get a training certificate. Having watched that video, you can get a training certificate to say that you've done that. But also, as I said, there'll be questions for you to fill in as evidence that you have engaged in this training. Thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to meeting you in person this term, seeing you in person this term, and I hope you have a great summer term. Thank you very much.